Dear brothers and sisters, I want to begin by asking, what is it that your heart craves most right now? Not what you post for others to see, not what you achieve in the world's eyes, but what your heart truly yearns for: peace, that stillness, that trust. That space where you can whisper to Allah, I am yours, and feel the weight of the world lift. In this digital age, we have become accustomed to the idea that our lives must be on display. Our thoughts, our struggles, our successes. Every moment captured, every feeling broadcast. But what happens inside of us when we live like that? What happens to our inner calm when we constantly perform for an audience, even if that audience is invisible and always judging? Islam teaches us differently. There is a Quranic verse that reminds us, and keep yourself patient and those who are with you among the believers. Shukr in 16:127, it implicitly invites us to guard not only our outward behavior but our inward state, to be mindful of our companionship, our environment, our influence, and yes, our privacy. Why does Islam encourage staying private on protecting your peace? Because every time you reveal the key to your inner door without care, you risk letting in the chaos. You risk intertwining your worth with external validation. You risk losing the profound simplicity of being with Allah without the loud applause of the world. When you choose to protect your peace by embracing privacy, you are saying, my heart is a gift, my inward state is sacred, my relationship with Allah is not a brand. And when you live that truth, something beautiful happens. Your calm becomes contagious, your sincerity becomes luminous. Your life becomes a quiet witness to what's inside, rather than a loud advertisement of what's outside. Let us reflect on 3 aspects of this teaching. 1. Silence as a space for the soul. The Prophet would often withdraw, reflect, pray in the stillness of the night. In that withdrawal, he renewed his strength, his connection. Just as we protect our phones with a password, we are called to protect our hearts with this silence. Not a silence imposed by fear or avoidance, but a silence chosen by wisdom. A silence that says, I am in Allah's presence, I am enough in His sight, and I do not need to expose myself to feel worthy. 2. Boundaries to preserve sacredness. Privacy is a kind of boundary, and boundaries are not walls of isolation. They are fences that protect what is inside. If you allow everything and everyone easy access to your heart, your peace becomes vulnerable. Islam encourages modesty not only in dress and speech, but in the unveiling of our vulnerabilities. Modesty of the soul means we know what to share when and with whom, so that our sharing becomes healing, not harm, constructive, not performance. 3. Intention over impression. When the world sees you, you may be tempted to craft an image, but when Allah sees you, He sees your intention, your struggle, your sincerity. The stronger your internal connection, the less you need external validation. When you hold parts of your journey in private, you allow growth without the pressure of spectators. You allow Allah to witness you first, to shape you privately, before the world ever does. Here is an expanded version of Keynote. Once, our inner sanctuary must be guarded, written in the tone and style reminiscent of the speaker you mentioned. Emotive, reflective, deeply rooted in spiritual insight. Without naming them. 2. I want you to pause with me for a moment and imagine your heart as a quiet room, a tender sacred chamber, not crowded, not full of noise, but calm. In that room, your soul sits quietly and Allah speaks. But what happens when that room becomes a glass box by the roadside, every passer-by peering in, every whisper broadcast, every vulnerability on display? The sanctuary is gone, the stillness is shattered, and what remains is a performance. In our world today, we have forgotten the profound gift of keeping our peace in private. We believe that to be seen is to be validated, that to share is to heal, that to broadcast our struggle is to receive compassion. But the Deen invites us differently to guard the room of our heart, to see that not every trial needs an audience, not every victory needs applause, and not every emotion needs a spotlight. Why guard your inner sanctuary? Because your soul deserves a place where you are not measured by reactions, where you are not curated for consumption, where you are simply you with Allah. In that room, tears are real, prayers are unfiltered, humility is raw, and dependence is pure. There is no need to craft an image, no risk of misinterpretation, no burden to respond to expectations. Only you and Him. When you begin to see the wisdom of privacy, You begin to understand that your worth is not determined by the size of your audience. Your peace is not reflected in the number of shares or likes. Your submission is not the applause of the gallery. It is the silent prostration before the one who sees what no one else does. You are richer when your heart can rest in what is unseen. And so you learn that silence is not weakness. It is strength. The strength to hold your gaze on Allah when the world demands your attention. The strength to say, I choose my Maker's approval, even when the masses demand your visibility. The strength to protect your sacred space, even if it means you walk alone for some time. When your inner sanctuary is guarded, you become free. Free from the tyranny of comparison. Free from the addiction of approval. Free from the restless striving to appear better, stronger, more broken, open than everyone else. Instead, you anchor in what is real. You anchor in what lasts. Think for a moment of the Prophet A, who retreated to the cave, who pulled away from the noise. That very retreat renewed his strength. It grounded his purpose. The solitude was not a sign of weakness, but a strategic act of preservation. For his heart, his mission, his connection. In that example lies a lesson. Preservation of the heart is sacred work. And when you guard your sanctuary, you also extend that gift to others. You become someone whose presence brings calm, not someone whose every moment is documented. You become someone whose peace invites, whose example anchors, whose hidden journey speaks more loudly than any public performance ever could. So I invite you, look at your inner room today. See who is inside, see what voices you've let in. See what doors you have left open. Because peace blooms when the heart is not beleaguered. It flourishes when the soul is not pounded by relentless exposure. It thrives when our relationship with Allah is nurtured behind closed doors, away from distraction, away from display. Let your heart rest in this truth. You don't have to prove you're calm. You don't have to broadcast your transformation. Protect the garden of your soul by choosing when to open and when to remain still, when to speak and when to listen, when to share and when to simply surrender. And in that guarded space, you will find something extraordinary. Your peace will speak louder than any post. Your authenticity will outshine any curated image. Your connection to Allah will become the foundation of your life, not the decoration. And the world will witness the difference, not because you announced it, but because you lived it. May your sanctuary be protected. May your heart know its value. May your relationship with your Lord be your most intimate story, untold, unseen by many, felt deeply by the one whose gaze truly matters. Privacy is not isolation, it is protection. There's a subtle but powerful difference between these two. Isolation is when we cut ourselves off from the world out of pain or fear, but privacy is when we consciously choose to draw boundaries to preserve what's sacred. It's not about closing the door on people. It's about keeping open the door between you and Allah. It's about knowing that not everything beautiful needs to be displayed, and not every truth needs to be shared to be real. We live in a time when exposure feels like connection, when we've been told that if we don't show it, it doesn't exist. But the heart was not designed to live constantly on stage. There is exhaustion in constantly performing, constantly proving, constantly narrating your own existence. Somewhere in all the showing, we lose the art of simply being. We lose the purity of experiencing a moment without recording it, of feeling something deeply without turning it into content. And so Islam gently teaches us to hold our peace close, to let some things remain between you and the one who gave them to you. When you choose privacy, you are not rejecting the world. You are protecting your energy from scattering into it. You are not becoming distant, you are becoming deliberate. You are learning to value your silence, your time, your emotions, and your spiritual state. Because not everyone who watches you understands you. Not everyone who listens deserves access to your inner life. Some things are too sacred to be laid bare before eyes that do not see through the lens of mercy. Think of a precious jewel. It shines not because it's always displayed, but because it's kept safe, preserved, and polished quietly in the dark. Your peace is that jewel. Your connection with Allah is that light that glows brighter in private conversations than in public declarations. When you rush to share everything, you dilute that intimacy. When you guard it, you deepen it. There's a kind of dignity in privacy. It's not arrogance, not coldness. It's knowing your worth without needing to shout it. It's walking in quiet confidence that your journey doesn't need validation to be meaningful. That your pain doesn't need to be witnessed to be healed. That your growth doesn't need to be announced to be real. There is something profoundly empowering about living unseen by most, but deeply known by Allah. The Prophet A taught us that sincerity lives in the unseen. The most beloved deeds to Allah are often the ones done away from the eyes of people. Even in our worship, we are encouraged to guard that sincerity, to hide our charity, to keep some of our prayers private, to seek forgiveness in the stillness of the night when the world sleeps. Why? Because in privacy there is purity. When no one is watching, there is no one to impress, only the Creator to please. And that is where the soul finds its peace. When you choose to be private, you reclaim your narrative from a world that constantly wants to define it for you. You stop giving away your emotional energy to every opinion, every reaction, every misunderstanding. You start realizing that peace does not come from being understood by people. It comes from being held by Allah. You no longer need to explain your silence or justify your boundaries, because you know they are your protection, not your punishment. And yes, there will be moments when the world misunderstands your quiet, when they call it withdrawal or distance or indifference. But your soul knows the truth. It knows that sometimes stepping back is not avoidance, it's alignment. Sometimes saying nothing is not weakness, it's wisdom. Sometimes privacy is the only way to hear the whisper of divine guidance in the noise of human chaos. Privacy teaches you balance. It teaches you when to open up and when to retreat. It gives you space to process before you share, to heal before you speak, to pray before you decide. And in that sacred space, you start hearing your own heart again. You start recognizing the presence of Allah in the quiet moments. The peace after tears, the calm after confusion, the light after long nights of searching. Protecting your peace is not about building walls. It's about cultivating gardens. It's about creating a space within yourself where Allah is the center, where your thoughts, emotions, and intentions revolve around Him. In that garden, you don't let every passerby trample through. You let only those who remind you of Him enter. You nurture your peace with remembrance, with boundaries, with truth, with trust. And when your heart becomes peaceful, you start carrying that peace into the world, not through loud declarations, but through presence. Your calm becomes an act of dawah. Your composure becomes an unspoken reminder. You become a reflection of the tranquility that comes from living for something higher than visibility. So choose privacy not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring. Choose silence not because you're scared, but because you're centered. Choose to protect your peace because it is the space where your faith breathes freely. Because some of the most powerful connections, the most beautiful prayers, and the most transformative moments will always happen in the unseen, between you and the one who never leaves. Peace blooms on the soil of intention. It's one of those truths that seems so simple, yet it transforms everything once you understand it. The heart finds rest not when everything around it is perfect, but when its purpose is pure. You can live through chaos, through uncertainty, through heartbreak, and still be at peace if your intention remains for Allah. But even the calmest life will feel heavy if your heart beats for the wrong reasons. The world often teaches us to live for applause, to seek validation, to make sure we are seen, liked, approved. But intention, the quiet, unseen energy behind our actions, is what Islam teaches us to guard most fiercely. Because the peace you're searching for cannot coexist with constant performance. It cannot grow in a heart that's always worried about who's watching. Peace begins the moment you decide that what you do for Allah alone. When your intention is right, your entire world changes. Suddenly the same act that once exhausted you becomes light. The same burden that once broke you becomes a means of closeness to Him. Even your silence, your tears, your struggle, all become worship when your heart whispers, "For you, my Lord." The intention is what turns the ordinary into sacred and the unseen into meaningful. And that's why privacy and intention are so deeply connected. Because the quieter your acts become, the purer they can be. When no one is there to applaud you, your sincerity is tested and purified. You begin to see how much of what you do is for people and how much is for Him. And in that awareness, something shifts inside. The weight of the world begins to lift. You stop needing to prove your worth. You stop chasing recognition. You begin to move through life softly, securely, knowing that the one who matters already sees. The Prophet I taught that actions are judged by intentions. Not by outcome, not by applause, not by visibility. Just intention. That means the world may never see your effort, may never understand your sacrifices, may never recognize your pain, but Allah does. He measures you not by the noise you make, but by the quiet truth of your heart. And that truth is what protects your peace. Because when you stop living for the eyes of people, you are freed from their judgment. You no longer fall apart when you are unseen. You no longer crumble when you are misunderstood. You no longer measure your success by the reactions of others. You begin to measure it by one thing: the state of your heart with Allah. Did you do it for Him? Did you speak for Him? Did you love, forgive, give, and let go for Him? If the answer is yes, then even silence becomes success. Even solitude becomes serenity. Sometimes Allah hides you to protect your sincerity. He closes doors so you can purify your motives. He delays recognition so you can learn that peace isn't found in being known. It's found in being true. And maybe that's why the unseen moments often feel the most sacred. The tears you cry in sujood that no one knows about. The charity you give quietly with no name attached. The forgiveness you extend when no one is watching. These are the seeds of peace, planted in the soil of pure intention. And yet the heart is fragile. It drifts, it forgets. Sometimes we begin something for Allah, but along the way the ego creeps in, whispering, "Let them see, let them know." It's in those moments we must pause and return. Recalibrate, ask ourselves, who am I doing this for? Because the soul cannot rest until the answer becomes only Him. Peace isn't found when life gets easier. It's found when your heart is aligned, when your inner and outer worlds stop fighting each other, when your intention stops shifting with people's opinions, when you can pray, give, love, and let go, all for the same reason, Allah. That's when life feels lighter even when it's heavy. That's when hardship feels meaningful even when it hurts. And sometimes, the greatest sign that your intention is pure is that you're content even when no one sees your effort. You smile even when you're unseen. You serve quietly. You pray consistently. You walk gently. There's no desperation in your giving, no bitterness in your struggle. Just a calm knowing that Allah is enough. To live with pure intention is to live free. Free from comparison, from the endless need to prove. Free from the exhaustion of trying to be enough for everyone. Because you realize you were never meant to be enough for people. You were meant to be sincere for Allah. And He never asks perfection, He asks truth. So keep your peace close to your heart. Protect it with sincerity. Guard it with quiet prayer. Let your intentions be your compass, not the opinions of the world. And when you feel unseen, remember the one who created sight sees you more clearly than anyone ever could. The world might miss your goodness, but your Lord never will. In every act, whisper to yourself, "For you, my Allah," and watch how your world transforms, how your chaos softens, how your restlessness fades, because a heart that acts with sincere intention will always be guided back to peace, no matter how far it drifts. And maybe that's the greatest secret of all, that true peace doesn't come from the life we show, but from the love we quietly nurture within. From every hidden act of faith, from every unseen effort, from every pure intention planted deep in the soil of sincerity, that is where peace grows. That is where you bloom. So, my dear brothers and sisters, let me leave you with this invitation: make peace your priority. And sometimes that peace demands privacy. It demands a retreat, not out of fear of people, but out of deep love for Allah, deep recognition of your own soul, and deep intention to live for Him alone. Let your heart become a sanctuary where you speak softly with your Lord. Let your outward life reflect the calm that begins in your inward life. Remember, what is hidden between you and Allah is stronger than what is shown to others. May Allah protect our hearts and grant us the courage to choose quiet when the world demands noise, to hold still when the world demands display, and to trust that our peace is not measured by the number of watchers, but by the state of our submission. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.